Let's start with some meditation. We'll sit for about 10 minutes. There'll be some instructions along the way. If you can, where you're at, sit upright and with good posture. Inhale and exhale through your nose. For this meditation, it's a good to try it with your eyes closed if you like, but it can also be done eyes open. So for a few breaths, on the inhale, tense your muscles just a little bit. And on the exhale, relax while keeping your good posture. Again, on the inhale, tense up just a little bit. Find all the little muscles. And on the exhale, relax. Try to keep the tension balanced as it comes on and as it goes off. Good. Now just breathe normally, just with relaxation, and start to scan the body, looking for any excess tension, anything that sticks out. Inhale into the excess tension and exhale and let go of it. Try to find smaller and smaller bits of tension and release them with each breath. Scan for any tension in the mind as well. On the inhale, breathe into any mental or emotional tensions, any stress from the day. And on the exhale, let them go. Good. Breathe freely and focus the awareness on the breath. Just follow each inhale and exhale. With each inhale and exhale, allow the body to become more and more relaxed, and allow the mind to become more and more spacious, not grasping onto anything, just breathing in this relaxed spaciousness. And if you notice the mind has grasped on to any thought, sensation, or emotion other than the breath, just take note of what it is that has caught your attention, saying to yourself, that is a thought, or that is just a sensation, and then gently return your attention to the breath. Good. Allow the breathing to take care of itself and turn your attention to the spaciousness and to the various thoughts that arise, move, and subside within it. Just observe this space and see what is going on there. Watch whatever thoughts arise. See how they spontaneously appear, move, change, subside, and finally disappear from consciousness. Just observe. Now, whatever thoughts arise or have arisen, see if you can let go of the thoughts and return your attention to the spaciousness itself. If necessary, you can sweep them up with the inhale of a breath and let them depart with the exhale of the breath. Try to notice when thoughts are just arising and drop them earlier and earlier. See if you can let go of them before the mind has even grasped onto them. Now let everything just be as it is. Let go of observing and of the observer. Let go of directing what happens in any way. Let go of letting go. Let the mind do whatever it wants. Let thoughts come and go. Let perceptions appear and disappear. Let spaciousness be as it is. Just be aware. That's all. Abide in awareness, without judgment, without grasping, and without resistance. Good. As we conclude the meditation, don't rush. Take note of how you feel. And if you feel relaxed, at ease, at peace, make a note to remember this feeling and try to carry it forward through the evening into your everyday life. Remember how good it feels to let go. So, this is the subject at hand this evening, is letting go. And so I want to talk a little about that to get us started. And probably you may have heard at some point that this letting go or non-attachment is important in some way. And but what does it really mean? I know in my own life, there was a whole progression of ideas about what I thought this meant, letting go or non-attachment. Early on, when we're young, perhaps, we might imagine it as giving up all our possessions or going to live in a cave or something like that. I know I imagined that. But while this might be a gesture toward attempting to let go, it doesn't really accomplish anything. You could give away all your possessions and yet still be deeply attached to them. And you could retreat to the remotest of caves and yet still be troubled by the ego. The one thing that giving up possessions or living in caves might do is show you that this alone won't work. And that there's a deeper kind of letting go that the spiritual traditions are pointing to. And facilitating this deeper letting go is at the heart of spiritual practice. And truly letting go is, I would say, the harbinger of awakening. So, what exactly are we letting go of, and who is letting go of it? These are essential questions, and deep inquiry into them could lead one directly to the truth. In short, I would say, let go of everything, even just for a moment. Try it out. Set aside the past. It's already dead. Nothing but dreams and memories. Set aside the future. It's stillborn. It will never arrive. Nothing but fantasies and nightmares. And in this present moment, relinquish all attachment to ideas about the world, the self, and what it is that is going on in our experience. Just be comfortable with being nobody, being nothing, knowing nothing. And eventually, you may see that all beings are really one being, and that the circumstances and the situation of our lives really have nothing to do with it. There's not a single thing that needs to change in order to let go. Not a single thing that needs to be done. And not a single thing that needs to be mastered or accomplished. In the same way that we're eligible for death at any time, so too can we let go at any time, even while we're still alive. So in practice, we begin, as we did in the meditation, with observing thoughts, seeing how they come and go, and learning how to drop them. It doesn't even have to be anything monumental, just whatever thoughts arise. That's the quintessential letting go practice. You can do it anytime, anywhere. And it's a practical skill immediately, especially where it concerns negative, obviously false, self-destructive or unhelpful thoughts. But we also have to practice letting go of what we consider sort of positive thoughts as well, or constructive thoughts, the thoughts that construct our whole view. And most importantly, we have to practice letting go of those views, those conceptual views, which I would say are like the glue that hold all our various thoughts together. And this business of letting go of concepts or conceptual views is the work of discerning what is real from what is unreal, what is true from what is untrue, what is just a view and what is reality itself. It's a process of discarding what we thought we knew and stepping into the unknown. And that's maybe the answer to this question, what are we letting go of? We're letting go of the known, and we're accepting the unknown. You could say it's serious business, because the most important and central concept that we know of is the individual self and all of its selfish desires, fears, hopes, and concerns. Through practice, we may have insight into the fleeting nature of this individual self, and indeed of all phenomena, all thoughts, and all views. Everything is transient, impermanent, dependently arising. Nothing has reality on its own. Consciousness illuminates everything, and all things are only discernible through the mind, which also has no reality of its own. And this kind of deep insight makes real letting go possible. Not the words, but the actual insight. It's like the sword of truth. It cuts right through the tangled knot of the ego self and its self-created world. Then we realize that actually all things self-liberate. All things eventually let go of themselves, including every possible thought and that tangled knot itself. And thus we are liberated from all attachments. Whatever may arise or not arise, the life of awakening is just continually letting go. Letting go, even of letting go. Because in the end, there is really no thing, no self, and no world to let go of. It is all arising and subsiding within consciousness itself. So wherever you are on your journey, whatever you imagine you might need to let go of, you can always just practice letting go. It's the easiest thing because it's inevitable. That's what watching thoughts teaches us in meditation, is that no matter how persistent the thought, if you persevere in watching it, it will eventually disappear. So maybe we'll take a few questions if there are any, and then I have some kind of experiments for you, or inquiries, as we're calling them. Any questions, or have you all completely let go?
I have a question. Yeah, I was biking today. And sometimes I just was just letting my mind kind of go. And then it sometimes I get to like a worry phase about our son, or something comes up and I just go into the spin. And then I said, okay, that's just a thought. Come back. Maybe I could have a positive thought. Maybe he's going to win the lottery, but that's another thought. So I just said, okay, well, so does something need. I thought, well, maybe I'm just going to start noticing the flowers. I mean, it's so beautiful here this time of year, and the green. And so I guess for me, my mind, I think, well, what does, if you give up something, does something need to, let's say, fill that void, or is it more just the breath and the presence, um, and keeping coming back to,
Yeah. So
go?
no, it's a very good question. In so in the structure of practice, the way we practice, that is how we practice. So for example, you know, the whole focusing practice of focusing on the breath is a way to replace, right? So we focus on the breath. So when intrusive thoughts come in, we can turn our attention back to the breath. Just like, you said, maybe I can turn my attention to the flowers, to the beautiful scenery and so on. Or like you tried turning your attention to a positive thought. So in practice, this is, how we start to work with thoughts and how we start to try to manage negative thoughts. But and that's good practice because it gives us a facility it starts to allow us to let thoughts go, right? So between that, like switching out thoughts, and then the observation work of seeing that thoughts went disappear completely and nothing replaces them. There's a kind of gap before the next thought arises. So that's a kind of progression. So eventually, the direction that practice goes, we want to be able to drop these thoughts without replacing them with any thoughts at all, or any, we're not trying to replace one thing with another thing. We're trying to see beyond all things. So, but it's not necessarily easy to do, which is why we have practice. But eventually, yeah, we don't want to replace one. You could think about it like we have one view of the world and what's going on and what we think life is all about and so on. And maybe everyone has had this experience of changing their view. Maybe you followed one religion for a while and then you decided that's not your view anymore. See, then you follow something else. Maybe you follow that for a while. Then you decide, no, that's not my view either. And, we've all done this. We trade up, right? One thing for another thing, for another thing, for another thing. But we're always trading one thought for another thought, one view for another view. So the ultimate direction of this practice, of this this inquiry, is to see what is present beyond all thoughts and beyond all views, or in that gap between when one thought subsides and the next thought arises. What is that? There's nothing there. So, in short, to answer your question, yes, we can trade up and it can be helpful, especially if you're dealing with pernicious thoughts and just day-to-day troubles. But ultimately, it's better to be able to drop those thoughts without having to replace it with anything new. Because the true background, the real background, is bliss anyway. So why take, as the saying goes, why take autumn leaves for gold? Why take another thought when you could go beyond thoughts?
Thank you. I can't wait for my next bike ride.
Yeah, great, great. Isa? Yeah.
Yeah, so let's assume or pretend that one has mastered the process of just being aware and experiencing that spaciousness. At some point, we do, and this is the question, don't we want to have positive thoughts to create new realities? Because that's where they begin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They'll come of their own accord. When when the mind is quiet, when we're not wrapped up in our deluded and selfish thoughts, then the true positive thought, true positive action comes of its own accord. We don't need to generate it. It comes about through letting go. It's only when we try to grab onto something that everything goes awry. So yes, of course, we want to be happy. We want to live in peace, but this comes of its own, on its own. Our part, at least the way I see it for practice, is the letting go part. If we let go, this natural goodness comes about of its own accord.
Matthew, I have a question that is similar to Issa's. Words fall short, and you speak to that really well in your books, and I appreciate that. So we're doing words, which is a challenge. So this is a kind of a question that gets into that trickiness. When I'm in a place of pure awareness, I'm in a place of bliss. I'm aware of things around. I'm in the moment, but there are thoughts that are attached. Like I'm enjoying the flower in the moment. There's nothing in my mind except the moment. Can you speak to? Can you put words to the difference between pure awareness and the thought that I'm in the moment? That I'm in the moment. You know, getting that? I mean, is there anything to say, or is there nothing to say that is the bliss, is being aware of what's right in front of you, with nothing, no filter between consciousness and what it touches.
If it's a question about bliss, I would say it's not a thought, if that makes sense. As soon as you start thinking about it, this starts to obscure it. So even a reflection like, this is bliss, now you're in the thought. True bliss, even when the thought arises, there's nowhere for it to stick. See, there's no, in a way, there's no I to be in bliss. There's just the bliss. That's all. In other words, you're not separate from it. You're not having an experience of it. It's everything. Even the bad stuff. It's all encompassing. It doesn't leave anything out. The only reason we're trying to go beyond thoughts is that we've become spellbound by our thoughts. And we've lost sight of this fundamental bliss. It's not that the thoughts aren't bliss, they are, but we've lost sight of that too. See, we've become just entangled in a web of thoughts and taken the thoughts to be the most important thing about what we are, what we're experiencing, and so on. So that's the reason for the practice of letting go of thoughts. It's not just, our goal isn't just to get rid of all thoughts. That is not the goal. It's just that the practice aims at seeing beyond thoughts so we can gain insight into what is beyond the mind, what is beyond thought, what is beyond our conceptual view of being a separate person, an individual person that is separated off from that bliss. I don't know if that answers your question.
That's helpful. Thank you. That's helpful.
Okay. Yeah, Gene.
So, Matthew, I have a question. Is emptiness and nothingness the same thing?
Depends on how you define them. This is, true nothingness isn't anything. So how could it be the same thing as anything else? See, it's everything. So if it's a question about words, we can battle over the definitions for thousands of years, as people have done. So when I say emptiness, when I say nothing, you could take these different ways. I think in Buddhism, maybe they have slightly different meanings. Nothing I think of as no thing, no object, no subject. And in this sense, nothing is everything. It is the one unity, the indivisible whole, the great perfection. Emptiness is something that is, at least in Buddhism, I think, applied to phenomena and objects. To say that they are not, that they don't exist on their own, that they are not independently existing. So in this sense, the two ideas are related, because if objects and the self and all phenomena are empty, that is not existing on their own or not individual, then this leads directly to the no thing. There are no things. There are no phenomena. There are no objects. There are no beings, because all are empty. There's only the one.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Thanks. Good question. Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a couple of little kind of inquiries or experiments or practices, just little mind games, if you will. And maybe we'll go through these. I'll just kind of talk you through it, and then I'll give you a minute to go into it, and then we'll see if there's any more questions. So the first one has to do with life and our experience of it, and our experience that we're having, and what it is that we think it is, and how we experience it. So I would say that there's a whole constellation of concepts that we have that tell us what to think about what we are experiencing. Thoughts like I'm in this body, or my mind is in my brain or in my head, or this out here is a physical world. We live in a physical world. We exist between birth and death, and so on. And thoughts like what I see outside, what is seen is outside, and the one who is seeing is inside. These are also thoughts, they're ideas that we have to sort of make sense of our experience and structure it in a useful manner. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are true. And so the great teachings instruct us to investigate, find out for ourselves whether this is really true or not. So just as an experiment, a small experiment, let's take a moment and see if we can just not bring any of these thoughts into our current experience that we are having right now. In other words, you're sitting here seeing something, hearing something, feeling something, but you don't know what is happening, whether it is physical or not physical, dream or reality. And this is letting go of what is seen, seen as an external phenomenon. You don't really know what it is. You don't know how this experience is happening either, how it came about, who or what is having this experience. Forget everything you think you know about yourself and what you are. You don't know what you are. And that is letting go of the seer. And when all conceptual views regarding the seen and the seer, the experience and the experiencer, are let go of or dropped or just left alone, made transparent, or folded into everything that is already happening, then that unity of being itself shines through as the one reality. There's no thoughts to bring all of the various concepts into reality. There's just this experience, whatever it is, with inside and outside not being different from each other. It's quite mysterious. So maybe this little exercise, gives you an idea of what I'm talking about when I say letting go of conceptual views. It's all of that. All the thoughts we have about what this is, what we're experiencing, and what we are. So if you have any thoughts or questions about that, I can take those now too. Yeah, Teddy.
So, appreciating what you're saying about letting go of conceptual views, just the thought of that is, okay, if we let go of, different concepts about life, it allows us to, I can tune into that around, oh, there's a different availability, a different openness, a different spaciousness
Yeah.
to tap into. And like on the one hand, I love that. And I feel like I get it to a certain extent. And then the flip side of that is concepts. And I'm thinking about this too in relationship to some work I'm involved with right now. And somebody I know that's like really trying to get their head around particular concepts for communicating in something that's important to them. And how concepts help us make sense of the world and relate to each other and connect. And so I'm just sitting with how does one work with both?
Yeah, good, really good question. So, it's just like the thoughts question. The goal isn't to, get rid of all concepts. Again, that it's a practice to try to see that the way that you are seeing and experiencing the world is mediated by concepts. In fact, I would say that normally we are having essentially a conceptual experience. That when we view the world as physical, for example, that's a conceptual experience. Actual physicists don't know what matter is. See, it's just an idea. But we've taken up this idea as a whole view, and we hold it so seriously. We take it so seriously that it's actually how we experience the world. So, of course, concepts can be very helpful. The goal here is to put them in their proper perspective, to allow them to be helpful, but not allow them to define what we are and who we are and what is happening. Because concepts can be, of course, very helpful, but they can also cause great suffering.
Yeah, thanks. That's powerful to think of them in terms of their having their own life form.
Yeah, and we give them this power, and in a sense, I guess what I'm saying is we give them too much power. We give them what I would call a false power. It's not, they can be helpful without being taken as reality itself. Because when we take them for reality itself, we obscure our open view, our clear view. And then we can be, we can go awry, and, God willing, our concepts help us, but they could also hurt us. Yeah. So, so again, like with the thoughts, the goal isn't to just abolish concepts. They're very helpful. Obviously, in my writing and everything that I'm saying, I am using concepts and words and thoughts. If I thought it was all pointless, I would keep my mouth shut, They can definitely be helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any Any other thoughts, experiences with this?
Well, I just want to thank you because for whatever reason, um, you're helping me kind of pierce through the concepts. There's something about the language you use and the words that you use. I've been working on this for a long time, and you're pushing me a little further, which is I want to thank you for that. Even the helpful concepts, I find myself trying to pierce them more in a way that I hadn't before. And so, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
great. Yeah, that's great. Um, like I said, there's a lot of, this is the confusing thing about spiritual discourse is there's all of these words and they can be defined so many different ways. And one person says one thing, another person says another thing. It can be very confusing. So, even letting go, you think, well, does it have to be gone? No, it doesn't have to be gone. It could be right there, but you're just not attached to it. You're not. The term that I like is reification, right? We have a concept or an idea or a thought or a word, and we make it real in our mind. We look at the tree, for example, and we make it real. There are all these trees. Look, there's one, there's another one, there's another one. It's all, we make all of that real in our mind. There are no trees at all. There's just reality itself. It's not that the concepts are bad. Of course, they can be super useful, and quite, what I say, call them functional, right? We can make microwave ovens and, Zoom chats and moonshots and, books and stories. And it's all wonderful. It's all beautiful. Yeah, Bruce.
I'm going to ask David if could you give an example of what you just were referencing of seeing through your concepts?
Well, I mean, I think like probably everybody on the screen, I've been working on non-attachment and letting go, surrendering, for decades. And like when Matthew talks about physicists, I mean, I'm aware of for me an awareness that it's pretty much molecular soup out there that comes together in my consciousness. My consciousness creates it. It's all, physicists will say there's nothing here. It's pretty much empty space. When you break it down in the subatomic level. So I've known these things for a long time. I think what I'm just appreciating is, I think in particular, Bruce, my ego, something about Matthew's, the way he frames things is helping me somehow, I don't even know how exactly, but to see how I protect my ego. The incredible cognitive processes that keeps me protecting my ego, and piercing that is really helpful.
Yeah.
Particularly when I'm not in a good headspace about things, I'm anxious or something like that. It's just become more clear. It's hard to put in exact words because I don't know if I'm really answering, but I can see it. I can see it more clearly, which is super helpful. How to protect myself.
We this whole business of concepts is related to the structure of the ego and separate self and separate individual being and life and death, and all of that is conceptually framed by the mind. And even when we shift around our ideas, like, okay, we come up with a new idea or a transcendent idea even, right? We think, this is it. No, it's still an idea. Whatever you think of, that's not it. Yeah, Bruce.
So, in a recent conversation, Matthew, you and I were talking about the mind and thoughts, and what was very helpful for me is you asked me, "Where is your mind, Bruce?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I can imagine that it's really nowhere, but that again is an imagination because I say it feels local and now in my head." Um, it's and then you go, well, and you worked me through this.
Yeah.
Well, where's your head?
Right.
Have you
Yeah. So let's go into it. Where is your head?
on my shoulders?
So it's so
but but again, the result was that everything that you asked me to look at, is it outside of my mind? Is my mind really and that's not really in my head because my head is in my mind. So they're both, you know,
yeah.
and so it was this circle that you just keep going round and round, and again that asking, what is this?
Yeah.
Then the only answer is ultimately that it's not me, it's not my mind, it's awareness or presence or your word total perception or God or so,
Yeah.
but it
Or the one mind, the big mind.
unity, yeah.
Yeah.
So but that whole process of of taking thoughts or concepts or phenomena and uh, just tossing it, where is it, what is it,
Yeah.
outside.
This was the critical question for me prior to my awakening was, where is my mind? Um, and if ordinarily we think, okay, it's in my head or whatever, it's in my brain. But if you really start to investigate this question, where is your head? Where is your body? Where is your brain? Where are all these things? They're in the world that you see and experience, right? So your mind is in the world, and the world is in your mind. And when you see this, it's clear something very strange is going on. It's not, what's going on isn't what we thought was going on. See, there's no word for it. It's not uh, it's not self, it's not world, it's not mind. It's what is the seer is the seen. See, because you see the world and the seer comes about in the world. So there's this kind of, in my book, I call this total perception. Bruce is calling it total presence, which I like also, but there's no way out of it. There's nothing that can be outside of it. Another question I asked you, Bruce, I think, was try to imagine something outside of your mind. See, and when you've imagined this thing outside of your mind, ask yourself, where is it other than in your mind? But again, this isn't solipsism. I want to make very clear that what I'm saying is not solipsism, which is the idea that everything is in your mind and that we're limited in what we can know to what's between our ears. The reason it isn't solipsism is that solipsism assumes there are individual minds, individual people, that can be limited. This instead is pointing towards limitlessness. The mind has no boundary, no limit. There are no limits whatsoever in this picture because everything is folded into it. Everything is that. Nothing is outside of it. no thought, no concept, no being, no non-being, life, death, everything is within it. There's no way out. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's quite a wonderful thing. It's a miracle. It's a miracle that we're here, that this is happening. The only reason we don't see how wonderful a miracle this is we've just kind of gotten used to it. And we've taken our ideas about it to be what it really is, instead of just this great miracle of being. Eddie, yeah.
I guess along the lines of what's being spoken right now, my Qigong teacher talks about how our bodies are a microcosm for like the macrocosm of what's in the universe. And I don't pretend to understand that, but there's something about that and the miracle of our bodies and this life that totally excites me.
Yeah. There are these whole traditions. I think we don't have a lot of exposure to them, that because we're so, we're very interested in the self and the world and so on, but the body is quite interesting. And it is another gateway, another door into everything, the body itself. And the mystical traditions speak of these various things too, like, in Christianity, you have the body of Christ. In Buddhism, I think you have truth body, and in Judaism, I think there's this idea of the body of God, that God has a body. It's all a weird, to us, it seems strange, but this idea of body, everything does have a body. There's the individual body, and there's also the body of everything that is. This miracle is a kind of body, and through practice, like meditation, we often think of meditation as a mind-centered practice, but actually it's a very physical practice. Sitting is quite, it's, like if you read instructions for meditation in Zen Buddhism, for example, they don't tell you anything about what to think about or what to do with your mind. They say, sit this way, position your body like this, breathe like this, put your hands like this. That's the instructions. And everything else comes out of being in this posture, in this position, in this body. I don't know if there's a question in there. I just kind of went off on a tangent, maybe. Yeah, but I guess what I say is I agree with you. My own practice was deeply involved with my body. I did a lot of heavy body-centered training that was all about looking inside my body, feeling what was inside my body, dealing with what was inside my body, Yeah. So yeah, deep insight can come from this. Yeah. Yeah, if you just look within, you can find everything there, all the answers you need.
Isa, you had a question.
Well, I find this really fascinating discussion because it seems to me that the body, one of the miracles of the body is that it's designed in a way to facilitate what we call spiritual awakening. I mean, when like, for example, Jill Bolt with her stroke, where the left side of her brain went off and she was instantly what we call awakened, experiencing the oneness of all life. So it's right there, hardwired, so to speak, in our brain. And the same with the energy points in the body that are gateway. I have experienced them as gateways into, subtler worlds. Yes. So anyways, well, how do you see that?
I agree. Like I said, the body, everything is there. You can discover everything through the body, or through anything really. But this is why, exactly what you're saying, I think, is why, for example, in Buddhism, they say it's such a great blessing to have a human birth, to be in a human body, to have a human mind, because it is the best possible circumstance to bring about this realization, this awakening. Yeah. And one interesting thing about the body, and this will bring me to our next little experiment. It's one interesting thing about the body, and one reason why it is so great at bringing us to spiritual realization, is that it dies. And so, this death is maybe the best model that we can think of for letting go. Right? I mean, we really have to let go when we die of everything, for real, or so it seems. And there are whole traditions, dedicated to contemplating death. In art, for example, you see all kinds of pictures of skulls and macabre scenes and demons and dead bodies and all of this stuff. And of course, some of it is just, a fascination with macabre stories. But it is also, in the spiritual traditions, an aid to spiritual practice, to reminding oneself that you have to die, that your body will die. In Latin, that when you see this in art, they call it memento mori. Remember that you have to die. It's a reminder that puts life and death into perspective. So, because they're two sides of the same coin, see, life and death. Everything that lives dies. Everything that's born dies. Everything that comes into being goes out of being. Just like thoughts, they pop into being and they go out and disappear, appear and disappear, appear and disappear. And this, because we are, attached to the individual self and our memories and our life and our loved ones and our world and our beautiful world, this idea of death becomes kind of a big problem or a sticking point, but it's one that we have to, I would say, if you're on a spiritual path, this is a question that we have to wrestle with. We have to face our own mortality, our own death. So meditating on it can be quite fruitful. It's a central question in letting go. It goes right to the heart of the matter, And in the traditions, you see this. Like, for example, I think this is like a Christian monk or mystic who said, die before you die so that when you die, you will not be ruined. It's interesting because, look, a Zen master, Bunan, said this: die while you are alive and be absolutely dead. Then do whatever you want. It's all good. See, it's the same idea. You see this again and again in the spiritual literature. Die now. Let go of everything now. And this will free you. Some of you may be familiar with the story of Ramana Maharshi's awakening. So, as a teenager, one day he was overwhelmed with the feeling that he was about to die. Instead of seeking out help, he laid down and just prepared himself for death, determined to see what it was. I'll just go into it. I'll just go into it and see what this death is all about. And inwardly, he went through the whole process of dying. And from that, he was liberated from that point forward. So there was something about this going through death that freed him from everything. So we can try this too as an experiment or an inquiry. Imagine that in 2 minutes, you're going to die. It's absolutely going to happen. Maybe you've, I don't know, been stung by a poisonous fish or something, and you just know it's 2 minutes, you're going to die. It's not even going to be painful, but it can't be avoided. You're going to die in 2 minutes. Use all the powers of your imagination to really put yourself into this situation. Let's say you're on a remote island or a mountainside with no phone and no way to contact anyone. So there's no distractions, just death in 120 seconds and the opportunity to really let go of everything and to see everything that there is to let go of. So I'll give you actual 2 minutes to go into this. Starting now. That's it. So you tell me, what's it like to be dead?
You never look so good, Matthew.
This is my incorporeal form.
I felt a real expansion, kind of flow, expansion flow. I couldn't hold it though, because I'd have pull me back. But when I kind of tapped into it, there was this great release, and I expanded massively. It was very comfortable, but it didn't last very long. I couldn't hold that space too long.
Yeah, see, this is the just to reframe what you said, to maybe think about it, try thinking about it the other way around. For a moment, you let go. And you said, I couldn't hold it. No, what you're holding is this.
Right.
See, the holding is the reflexive part that brings us back. The letting go is just pure letting go. See, so what I would suggest is try thinking about that the other way around. It's not that you couldn't hold it. It's that you only let go for a moment.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Any other interesting experiences with this one? I like this little practice.
So as I was experiencing it, the bugs are out pretty good now, and I've been playing with them. And I was in it for a minute, and then something bit me, and I said, "Doesn't matter," and just went there. And it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
that'll be my takeaway. The bug bites don't matter.
Yeah, it really puts things into perspective when you're going to die in a few seconds, Yeah. Yeah. The bug bites don't matter. Indeed. I think there's a bit of wisdom there we can all take away, this is where, of course, to take that to the extreme, this is the perfect expression of equanimity, to see nothing matters. Not in a negative way. Some people take that to mean something negative, but in a quite wonderful way, Yeah. Great.
Let's give space for people who haven't spoken yet to say something.
I'll say I really like, Matt, your "where is my mind" question, or the mind. Ever since you brought that up, I've been wondering where is sensation, where is
Right.
anything?
Right.
And it's here, it's nowhere, it's everywhere.
Yeah. See, this is it. This is direct.
I'll stop.
This is direct investigation. Don't take anybody's word for what is going on. See for yourself what is going on. Where is your mind? Where is sensation? Where is the world?
Where's any experience?
Right. It's not, like I said, it's quite mysterious, right?
what's evident is that we take most of our experiences and conceptualize them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
really quickly.
very quick.
Really quickly. So it seems like there's a place and a time to the experience, but there's not.
Yeah, through, this is what we'll call conditioning, through years of practice of having that thought over and over and over. It comes like that, and you are experiencing it like that. But I always say a good thing to pay attention to how this experience comes into being in the morning when you wake up. Watch that process. When you're just starting to, it doesn't appear all at once. When you're just starting to wake up, this kind of like maybe a sensation here, a glimmer of a thought there, you may not even know who you are yet. And then bit by bit, it starts to snowball. And then it all happens very quickly. And suddenly the whole world is there. And all of the past and the future. But before that moment that the past and the future and the whole world comes into being, it's not there. And yet, in our day-to-day life, we totally discount this experience. We focus so much of our life on this waking, what we call the waking state. But if we're going to understand ourselves in our entirety, or if we're going to understand the truth in its entirety, we have to account for all states, all possible states, all possible experiences, all possible worlds. And so we have to investigate not just the experiences when something is there, but also when nothing is there, and see that things are coming and going all the time. Even in our waking day, everyone's had the experience of losing track of time. What does that mean? We lost track of time, or we lost track of ourselves. Have you ever been so involved in something that you just forget about yourself entirely? You're just completely involved in what it is that you're doing. You are, in essence, invisible to yourself. Well, these are all very interesting experiences that are real experiences, just like all of the other experiences that we have. And so, these experiences also need to be sort of accounted for. We can't just ignore one aspect of our experience or our beings. We have to, as I'm always saying, fold everything in. Enlightenment is the view that doesn't leave anything out. It's not complicated. It just doesn't leave anything out. Everything is folded into it. In fact, it's the opposite of complicated. It's super simple. Just don't leave anything out. Or as I think one Zen saying goes, just stop picking and choosing. The greatest truth isn't difficult. Just stop picking and choosing.
That's from Lao Tzu.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. Well, let's end on that note. Yeah. Yeah.